Today, I'm going to flip the script here a little bit on us. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about how do we lead others well, and we should, right? You know, we're talking about how do we give better feedback, how do we hold people accountable, how to raise standards inside of our organizations. But today, I want to tackle this from a different angle, and I want to ask you a different question. Are you hard to lead?
This is the Champion Forum podcast with Jeff Hancher, the forum for leaders, champions, and dreamers.
Take control of your career at Compassionate Care Unlimited, located in Western Pennsylvania.
Compassionate Care Unlimited is hiring RNs and LPNs. Choose your own schedule for a perfect work-life balance.
Plus, enjoy competitive pay and 24/7 personal support from their woman, nurse, and veteran-owned business.
Enhance your skills with their CPR training classes for individuals and businesses. Learn more at CompassionateCarePA.com.
Be uplifted, be supported, be part of the Compassionate Care Unlimited team and apply today.
Compassionate Care Unlimited is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey, welcome back to the Champion Forum podcast. Jeff Hancher here, and I am on a mission to help others lead, inspire, and win in this life. Today, I'm not asking if you're a good leader today. I'm asking today, actually, if you're a good follower. Not are you competent? Not are you high performing and get all the results? Are you easy for your boss to lead? Different twist here on the show today. Because here's the truth that I think very few of us leaders admit. Some of the most talented, the most driven, high-performing leaders are very difficult to lead. And my hand is up. You know, looking back now, I give some of my bosses a lot of credit. I was probably pretty tough to lead at times. And here's the reality. We have no idea. We really don't know this because of all the other things I just stated, high performing, all the other things. So today, I'm going to unpack this in a couple of segments. I'm going to unpack what makes high performers like you difficult to lead and be a difficult follower, how leaders like us, maybe, unintentionally frustrate our own bosses. And we're going to talk about a self-awareness test that I think everybody listening needs to take as soon as you finish this episode. But let's dive into this first segment. What does make a high performer, specifically a high-performing leader, difficult to follow? Well, look, high performers, we bring a lot of value, no question about it. High performers execute, they think strategically, they move quickly, they raise the standard everywhere that they go. But those same exact strengths that maybe you have, they might be creating friction up in the org chart. And here's some patterns that I see, and these were patterns even in my own journey. So I'm telling you from personal data here, right? But here's some patterns that I see. The first one is that high performers struggle with alignment when they're not in agreement. Man, a high performer that's not in agreement, that can manifest some type of way sometimes. And we struggle with alignment, and I'm saying when we disagree. Well, why is that? Well, they're decisive. High performers are. They see inefficiencies very fast. They form strong opinions. So what's the problem with all that, Jeff? Well, when the boss makes a call that they maybe wouldn't have made themselves, they comply behaviorally, but they resist emotionally. So they're trying to be a good soldier, but emotionally, there's a breakdown. And everybody's feeling it. You can feel it in the room, this emotional breakdown. And that high performer, they're not fully bought in. They're subtly critical, I would say, because they're wise enough and savvy enough not to throw a chair. But subtly, they're very critical. And this creates a lot of tension. They have this mindset that I would have done it differently, which is usually the case. Here's the other pattern. High performers move too fast for their boss sometimes. And this is no knock on your boss. But if you're a high performer, man, you're pacing. You're setting pace usually. You might be sitting there as the high-performing leader frustrated because your boss is slow, when in reality, they're not really slow compared to the average. They're just slower maybe than what you would like and the pace that you're used to running. But sometimes what feels like slowness is maybe what you're defining as slow, it might actually be stewardship. And so we might be giving our leaders a bad rap here. Your boss may see risks that you don't see. That is possible, right? They might have stakeholders that you don't manage that are causing them to react and respond the way that they do. They might have political landmines that you have zero visibility into. By the way, you know this is true because you have these same things with your direct reports too, right? So when you consistently override or outpace alignment, your boss feels pressure instead of partnership. That's a risk. That's a risk for our brand. High capacity without patience, it's a guaranteed tension point, and that's not good for our brand. The third pattern, high performers resist direction that they did not initiate themselves. Man, this is another big one. And this isn't saying that I'm talking to everybody and y'all got big egos and you're arrogant and you think your way's the only way. But I will say, oftentimes, high-performing leaders, as it comes to this tension points, if they didn't initiate something on their own, there might be a little bit of resistance there. It may take a little longer for them to buy in. Why is that? Well, you're used to driving. You're the one usually driving the car. You're used to setting the direction. That's how you became a high performer, by the way. But when someone above you gives you, strong direction, you might subtly resist to this a little bit because it wasn't your idea. And you ask more questions that are necessary. And it's not because you're even looking for clarity. And I know this firsthand. I'm not overwhelming you with questions because I have clarity. I'm overwhelming you with questions so that you can come to the conclusion that your idea sucks, right? And I'm just kind of subtly making it difficult on you. You might even push back publicly on this, which is a big no-no. Your boss, when this happens, your boss begins to think, why is it with this person, maybe you, why is it that everything has to be a debate? If everything requires negotiation, I hate to report this, you're tough to lead. You're hard to lead, and that's not helping your brand. The fourth pattern, high performers communicate upward selectively. They communicate up in the org chart very, very selectively. And this is a huge one, so let's break this down a little bit. Oh, they share wins. They share strategy. They share big vision, but they delay in sharing the problem. They're quick to share the good news. They're quick to share the vision, the celebration, the win, but they delay sharing problems. Well, why is that? Well, because if you're a high performer, aren't you super capable? You sure are. If you're a high performer, don't you just want to fix it first instead of pushing it up the org chart? And there's not a high performer listening to this show that wants to look weak in front of senior leadership. But from your boss's perspective, surprises, they erode trust. Nobody likes a bad surprise. When this happens, it erodes trust. If your boss finds out about issues later, after the fact, even if you solve the issue, you become harder to lead because they're always wondering, what are they keeping from me and when is the bomb going to blow? Not good for your leadership credibility. You might be hard to lead. So, how do leaders frustrate their bosses? You have people that you lead, and so you probably have some level of awareness of this. But look, the blind spot is that I don't do that. It's not me, right? So let's dive into this a little bit. Let's get a little specific so that maybe we can uncover some opportunity for you today. Here are some ways that leaders unintentionally frustrate the people above them. This would be leader to the most senior leaders, right? One of the ways is that they bring problems without clarity. And I'm here for bringing some challenges and problems. I literally just talked about that. But you can't just show up and throw up. You got to bring some level of clarity. Not every problem needs to be solved before escalation. I just referenced that. So I'm here for escalation when it makes sense. But when you bring a problem, don't just stop at bringing the problem. Bring context, bring options, bring a recommendation. If you routinely are going into your boss's office and you're just dropping problems without thinking through solutions, your boss feels like they're parenting, not partnering. And nobody listening as a leader wants to be the parent. You want to partner. When I bring a problem, I've thought through it. I'm going to bring some level of clarity. Even if you don't have a solution, I'm going to bring some clarity and some thought at minimum. The next thing is that they seek autonomy but avoid accountability. Oh man. I'm looking straight in the mirror on this one. Look, you want freedom. You want decision rights. You want space. We love the autonomy as peak performers, don't we? As high impact leaders. But do you proactively report metrics? Do you own misses publicly in this spirit of positive discontent? I blew it, but I'm going to get better. I'm not as good as I could be. Do you initiate tough conversations about your own performance? Look, sometimes our breath stinks, and we got to own that. And we got to let people know, look, I got a pocket full of mints. This isn't going to happen again. Peak performers sometimes have a hard time having tough conversations about their own performance. Autonomy without visible accountability, man, it makes leaders nervous. And if you're doing this, I promise you, it's making your leader nervous. The third thing, they defend instead of listen. Man, I could name names. I'm not going to name names, but I could name names. When your boss gives you feedback, what is your first instinct? Do you explain? Do you clarify? Do you justify? How do you respond when your boss gives you feedback, especially feedback that maybe doesn't feel so nice to hear? Because here's what I'm going to tell you. Even subtle defensiveness communicates, I am more right than I am curious. Man, don't we want to be a leader that is not a know-it-all, but we're a learn-it-all? We don't need to be a know-it-all. We want this brand that we're here to learn it all. The feedback might not even be true, but it should make us curious versus defensive. If you want to lead at the highest levels, you have to model the very feedback posture that you yourself expect from your team. This is critical, absolutely critical. Sometimes we know what we want from our subordinates, but we're making the exact same mistake to the people that are leading us. Be careful of that one. The next one is that sometimes these high-performing leaders, they require excessive affirmation. Oh, man, I know that's nobody listening in today because you all are on top of things and full of humility. But I got to tell you, guilty as charged once again. I love myself a good trophy and an accolade. And this one's uncomfortable. Some high achievers, man, they quietly need constant validation. Why is that? Well, they want reassurance. They want some recognition. They want visible praise. And I know y'all are humble, but man, if we can dig deep into the truth tree here, that if you're a high performer, some of these things very well might apply to you. They definitely do me. Matter of fact, I would go as far as to say it's probably what I miss about corporate America the most. You know, here I am, the founder of my company. I don't get a lot of fanfare internally. I haven't won a trophy in some time. Maybe I need to create some recognition for myself. I don't know. But look, there's nothing wrong with some good appreciation. I'm here for it. But if your whole stability depends on affirmation from above, your boss feels responsible for your emotional state. Oh my, I got to stroke their ego again. Got to tell them they're doing a good job. Got to give them another attaboy, attagirl. Man, that's heavy. That's heavy. Because your emotion may be directly determined by their affirmation that they give, and now you've just given them this hot potato and this burden to carry. That's a heavy burden. Great leaders should reduce upward pressure, not increase upward pressure. We want it to be pleasant when our boss has to come tell us something or ask us something or whatever it might be. We don't want them walking into our office dreading life, right? Let's not put that heaviness on them. So let me provide a couple audit points for you so that maybe you can diagnose if there's any opportunity for you to grow in this area. I told you at the beginning, there's a self-awareness test. Here it is. I'm going to give you these questions. And I want you to ask these questions to yourself and be brutally honest. Question 1 is this. Does my boss feel lighter or heavier after interacting with me? And you might not know, so you might have to ask. Do I make their job easier or more complicated? Question 3. When I disagree, do I show maturity or am I overly intense? 4, am I predictable in character and performance? Meaning I'm not a loose cannon, I stay composed under pressure, these kind of things. And you might not know, so you might want to ask some people. Question 5, do I give my boss visibility into my world before they ask for it? And this is an art form, maybe a whole episode of its own. But am I giving visibility, or am I just afraid that if I say too much, they're going to think differently? They're going to see me as weak. You know, there's a way to posture this that makes you a credible leader. You know, you don't have to always go in and tell them everything great that you're doing. I think there's a place to take credit for that. But man, a well-rounded leader is ready to have a healthy conversation. And the 6th audit point question, have I ever directly asked, what makes me hard to lead? Wow. This is a $1 million question. And if you're thinking about this last question, and I think I saved the best for last, when you look your boss in the face and say, I got to ask you something. What makes me hard to lead? How are they going to feel when you ask that? Are they going to feel like crawling under their desk? Are they going to feel the tension enter the room? Are they going to be thinking, if I really told you why you're hard to lead, you wouldn't be able to take it. You're going to explode. You're going to spend the next 25 minutes defending yourself. It might be hard for them to tell you the truth, but I will tell you this, whatever they're thinking, we got to draw it out because this is the growth opportunity for you. That last one, man, that is gold. And very few leaders ask it. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. I would say even fewer sit quietly long enough to hear the answer that might be coming when they ask the question. But I want to ask you, if you don't do any of the audit points, can you ask that last question in the next 30 days to your boss? And I would love to hear some of the responses. I won't use your name publicly, but let me know what they said and what you learned from it. Send me a message, info@jeffhancher.com, or send me a DM on Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever's easier for you. So here's a practical challenge I want to leave you with. In your next one-on-one with your boss, try this. Try saying something to this nature. Listen, boss, I want to be someone who isn't hard to lead. What's one thing that I do that makes your job harder? That's another great leadership question. That's a great way to influence up. And then when you ask the question, don't defend it. Don't explain it. Don't justify it. Just write down what they're saying. Take it in, saturate it. And look, man, there's a lot of different audit questions that I think that you can ask to flow into your one-on-ones with your boss. By the way, if you're not having one-on-ones with your boss, request them. This is so important. But let me give you a few more that have helped me along the way. And by the way, don't ask these all at one time. They're going to feel like they're being interrogated. Just float them in over the next 5 months. Ask them this. Say, hey, is there a level of transparency you'd like from me that maybe you're not getting? Man, it might get a little uncomfortable, but I will tell you, if they're honest with you, it's going to bring about a strong relationship. Maybe you ask them, hey, do I ever unintentionally undermine decisions of yours after you make them? Hey, do you feel like I fully own my mistakes? Do you feel like, look, I miss it from time to time. Do you feel like I own that? Or do you feel like I come off maybe a little defensive and trying to justify the miss? Maybe ask them this one. Have you ever held back feedback because of how you thought I might respond? Man, I will tell you what, I wrote the book on feedback, right? And I'm here to tell you, if people are withholding feedback, you will never see your potential as a leader. We got to get it. And if there's barriers there, we have to uncover the barriers. And maybe ask them this one last question. What do the strongest leaders that you've ever worked with do differently than what you see me doing? Man, what a great conversation that could bring about. And don't rapid fire these questions. Again, pick one or two, ask it, listen to it, write it down, and thank them for the feedback. Then circle back maybe in 30 days and show the progress that you've made. That follow through is what separates you from everybody else, because it says, I heard your feedback, I executed on the feedback. I liked it, I want more of it. If you are truly growth-minded, as you probably say that you are, then you're going to treat that feedback that you're getting as leadership gold. You cannot demand coachability from your team if you're not going to be coachable upward. We got to be coachable leaders. You can't expect alignment if you resist direction. We got to take direction. You can't preach accountability if you subtly are avoiding accountability yourself. You reproduce who you are, right? Leadership it's not just how you lead down. It's how you lead up. And look, what I have found, the higher you rise, the more what we're talking about today matters. Because at senior levels, talent is assumed. Talent is assumed. Character, maturity, those things aren't assumed. Those things at the senior levels, they start hitting different. So if you want to separate yourself as a high-impact, top-tier leader, become the easiest leader to be led. Be strong. Be aligned. Be decisive, but humble. Certainly be confident, but also be coachable at the same time. And remember this, if you're hard to lead, man, it makes everything else uncomfortable. Nobody likes that. Matter of fact, I would go as far as to say you might become somebody that people are trying to avoid. But if you're easy to lead and you're really good at your job, you're exceptional in performance, doors are going to open up that talent alone could never open. Until next time, hey, make it easy on someone else to lead you and keep turning that pressure into potential.
The Champion Forum Podcast with Jeff Hancher. Lead, inspire, win.